Okay, hi everyone, and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the Equinox coming on March 20th, 2025. I hope you're all doing really well. I wanted to come on after this lunar eclipse and being right in the middle of eclipse season to talk about the Equinox and the astrological new year that we're going into. Welcome. I hope you're all doing well. We have some really interesting transits going on right now. I've just made a tea-chat on Patreon about the Sun, Neptune, North Node, and Saturn, all in Pisces. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in today's YouTube video, but I'll also link below a snippet of the tea-chat where you can go and get some of that information. And always, if you would like to sign up to Patreon to get some awesome premium content from this channel, that is linked below as well. So I'm feeling like as we're coming to this astrological new year, there are a lot of parts that can't go forward. I don't know if you guys notice, but there is a lot of malaise and a lot of even, I would call it like paralysis or immobilization going on right now. There's been a lot of slowing down and a lot of people having to reconcile many different chapters of their life and try to consolidate all of this into something that is functional or something that works. As I'm seeing a lot of people come out of this 2024 year cycle with a lot of components that are good, a lot of things that are not bad, but some of it is not really integrated right or not all connected right. It's almost like if you have something that's super valuable in your life, but you're not really utilizing it or working with it. This is something that I feel that we are about to discard, and as we're moving into the astrological new year, there are going to be a lot of call to action energy coming in, and a lot of things that are just not going to work anymore. So I'm feeling also that some people have accepted things too easily, and they perhaps have not at the same time accepted some of the opportunities that would have really made things easier. So there is a certain devotion to hardship, I feel, that we are going to see very clearly approaching this equinox time period. And I also feel that there are some elements that are really distorted. Okay, so there is a lot of doublespeak going on with Jupiter in Gemini, which is finishing up. We also have Neptune right on the cusp here of Pisces and Aries. It's going to move into Aries by the end of this month. Do hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications if you want to be notified when that video goes up. And I feel like a lot of people have been quite frustrated with this period of time. I've been seeing just when I'm like out in public, a lot of like angry driving, a lot of delays, a lot of things that used to work not working, businesses that used to be popular looking quite vacant or empty, things that had a certain purpose now being or shifting into a different purpose. I'm also seeing a lot of people kind of be contradicted here. So there is a lot of contradiction, there's a lot of doublespeak, there's a lot of two-facedness here, two-mindedness here. We have a lot of duality represented in the transits, obviously having Nessus, Saturn, North Node, Neptune, and Sun in Pisces. Also having Jupiter in Gemini. What a dualistic period of time that we are in. So this means that people want peace, but they continue to take violent or inflammatory actions. This means that people want purification and want a cleaner life, yet they continue to put toxic foods into their body, or they continue to indulge certain habits that are the opposite of health and purification. This means that people want to save money, yet they keep spending. And so we have to really see this, okay? We have to see where there is this polarity going on, and we perhaps have almost a dualistic motivational grid. Why is it that we still crave these toxic foods? Why is it that we are overindulging consumerism or overindulging certain spending habits that are not actually helping our lives? Why is it that we have a romance with conflict? Why is it that we have a romance with force and over-inflammatory methods of communicating with people who are on a different page than us. I'm seeing also with this Jupiter in Gemini, just in so many categories, that people want to speak about things in a certain way, or they want to advertise or persuade or dictate or decree that certain things are a certain way, and this may not really be representative of the way that things are. So we have a very powerful need for substantial clarity, meaning that we have to really look at the core and the substance of any given situation, and we have to be quite careful about over-considering the packaging, over-considering the spoken or written remarks about something, as these could be quite on the other side of how these situations actually are. And I talked at length on Patreon in the audio linked below about the nuanced way that this Saturn, Nessus, Neptune, North Node, Sun, Stellium in Pisces is bringing about a certain opposition between the material, structural element of our lives, Saturn, and the more ethereal, dream-oriented part of our lives, Neptune. And what's between those two planets right now is the North Node. So this is creating like a bridge between the material and the non-material, okay? A bridge that is built on the North Node, which is the archetype of ambition, hunger, craving, future tripping, some type of unreal vision or quest to perhaps eliminate certain previous difficulties or to expand, grow, or seemingly elevate. So I think that this is actually kind of a dangerous time that we're in. I feel that it's quite an imbalanced period of time. We have a myriad debilitations, obviously. Jupiter being debilitated in Gemini, Uranus being debilitated in Taurus, Venus being debilitated in Aries, Saturn arguably being debilitated in Pisces, Mars being debilitated in Cancer. Okay, this is a time where I do think that there has to be some acceptance around the reality that we're currently in, and a very judicious and level-headed, sober willingness to engage every day some type of very, again, sober planning or some kind of very sober decision based on many years of work. Okay, also, one of the elements of being in this equinox time with all of this Pisces energy is the feeling of having been in something for a huge amount of time. Okay, the final sign of the zodiac, and just having like Neptune there at the final degree of the final sign of the zodiac. It feels to me that a lot of the situations that we're in are bigger than the individual. It's bigger than us. And we might have to work in some cases, multi-decade context with our own lives. Like, okay, I've been in this career for X amount of years. I've had this ancestral connotation, these very long-term trajectories. And because of these long-term trajectories, I can move into this area. It's going to be very hard to change things too quickly. Okay, so Neptune's going to go into Aries at the end of this month, and yes, it will retrograde back at the end of this year, so we're not quite out of the woods there, even though it's going into Aries at the end of March, and it's going to bring about this promise of a new frontier. There's going to be a lot of romance and groupthink that starts to generate around, a new territory that has not yet been settled, or some kind of new Wild West industry, or some kind of thing that's just different than what has ever been done before. And there's going to be a dogma that kind of comes around this, I would say, kind of hyper-masculine, I'm going to settle a new territory, or I'm going to create something that's never been created before. And it's not that this is bad. I don't mean to condescend this, but because of the transits, there's going to be that in shadow. Okay, so there's going to be a kind of debilitated way that people are seen, as well as their motivation or their justification for being this way is going to be highly criticized and highly brought into question. And there is also going to be a really pivotal and powerful conflict I feel around is it actually as new as we think it is, or is it as revolutionary as we think it is? It may just be a recreation of a kind of outworn system on a blank canvas. So that's going to be the conflict and I would say the crux of this beginning part of Neptune being in Aries, especially when it has one more retrograde to make back into Pisces. I don't love the feeling of my whole life is behind me. I'm just going to do something I've never done before. I don't love the feeling of now with an infinite supply of money, I'm going to finally be in power, or, I've arrived. You see this very kind of like Aries sort of me, I'm creating an ego-driven kind of thing that is going to get very powerful. It's very masculine. It's very ego-driven. It's very forceful to me as well. And it's very unitary. It's very centralized, actually. And we're still coming off of those major Capricorn stelliums of the last few years, which is still really motivating things more than people recognize, which is also tying into what I was saying there about like, okay, so there's this blank canvas, or there's this new industry, or there's this new territory. Are we just going to kind of like recreate the familiar systems within that? Or is there something that's really novel and helpful and evolutionary, or certainly themed with some type of like true evolution of human capacity? And I also think that it's just so hard to get consensus about how things are expanding here, especially coming out of this Pisces season that we've been in. And I do want to also bring this talk and this video more down to the individual as well. I feel some of you are in a way too accessible. I feel that some of us are having to like really come back to our own moral compass here with all of this Pisces energy and about to move into this Aries overhaul, I want to call it. You may have to build up boundaries in certain relationships. You may need more time for yourself. This has been very healing for some people in Pisces season to reclaim their time, to spend more time resting, to come back to the drawing board, basically. And this may need to actually increase in this equinox, because this may not just have been a feature of Pisces season. This might actually be a feature of like the entire oncoming year cycle. So I am feeling like a strong need for individuation. I'm sensing a strong need for time spent processing. We've been talking a lot on Patreon about personal record keeping, understanding our history, understanding the past, and having that in a certain like digestible format so that you really understand the momentum that you're moving into this Aries overhaul time with. And, all of the two-mindedness, all of the double speak, all of the, one day I want to live here, one day I don't, vacillation between love and hate, okay, vacillation between the dark and the light, vacillation between the awake or asleep soul, okay. This is, I think, a very destabilizing factor of this period of time, as I feel that some people feel during this time that they've experienced some type of soul death, or some people feel during this time also that they have failed, or that they have rescinded certain motivational grids too. While at the same time, yes, other people, it's like the opposite, right? This is a very kind of like contrast-oriented time. It's like, I've finally arrived, I've finally woken up, I finally understand my purpose. I don't like either of the extremes here. We had a very interesting time around 2022 to be like fully aware of a long trajectory and like fully conscious of these sort of like ultimate cause, ultimate purpose elements. And ever since we went into 2023, there's been a major contraction. And that really became more intense over 2024. And now it's almost like in 2025, there has to be separation and a return to the self as there's a deepening, or there is a recognition also that certain problems that we were having, or certain elements of our lives were like deeper wells than we realized. I talked about this in Patreon in a recent audio, again linked below, about roots in our lives and how we go through these long-running challenges or long-running stories, and how one of the flaws, I think, of the last few years was maybe a dismissal of the significance of the long-term stories, or this want to kind of just be a totally different person or totally recreate one's life. Well, we kind of are learning here that some of the wells were deeper than we thought. And for this reason, it takes a lot of time to actually come through certain challenges or through through certain obstacles. But this can be positive as well, as some people will also realize here that I've had more money saved than I realized. The well is deeper than I thought, or, I actually have more support from my family, or I have more support from my community than I realized. It's a deeper well than I thought, right? This sort of Neptune, Saturn, Sun, also eclipse season, North Node in Pisces. Yes, there is a deepening. There's a depth to something that we could not see before, or that we were perhaps blind to before, that we are now going to begin realizing. And this will become totally conscious actually after the solar eclipse at the end of the month and when Neptune goes into Aries. So even as I'm recording this now, we might not be fully conscious of all of these roots in our life, of all of the deepening factors. But there's a need to secure to some degree. There's a need also to have like base camp vibe, safety zones, because I do feel that, again, with all of this doublespeak, two-mindedness, and contradiction, to me, that's kind of like unstable. And I do feel that there could be some difficult events, just like world events coming on the horizon, because the distortion and contradiction has to become like on the same page with itself, which can be very unstable. I don't see us going into Jupiter in Cancer with the same degree of, contradiction. I don't see us going into Jupiter in Cancer, screaming about peace. Isn't that a nice way to put it? I don't see us going into Jupiter in Cancer screaming about peace. I don't see us going into Jupiter in Cancer spending to save. I don't see us going into Jupiter in Cancer so obnoxiously advocating for our own merit. Okay, I see things really being seen for what they are. I see people being congratulated on their merit, and I see other people having certain consequences for things being too complicated, too contradicting, and too, jumping on both sides of a situation, It's an interesting time to also go through cycles of like anxious attachment and avoidance here. I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing people don't want to be in their house and they don't want to leave. They don't want to really commit to someone. It's a very non-committal time, but they want to kind of like exist there at the same time. And it's just going to be very evident, maybe not in the next few months, but as we really advance into this year cycle, by July and August, the law of physics is going to really show itself, and it's going to show, there is poetry, there is sometimes duality naturally, but at a certain point, the water can't be hot and cold at the same time. The air can't be both still and blowing at the same time. The fire can't be hot and cold at the same time. It's just like everyone's so confused and so terrified over the current events going on that they just don't want to really get on any one side of things, because you can't really get a feel for the full direction. So it's, in a way, almost like a coping mechanism or a survival instinct to be so two-minded and so on both sides, because we don't want to get hurt. But I think it's just going to get so clear that there's a kind of a ridiculous thing going on where people won't commit, they won't choose, they won't embark, they won't engage. And this is going to drive people crazy, because they're going to be kind of like cramped up in their houses or their rooms, just like not being willing to move on anything because it's so kind of hesitant. Now, speaking a little bit about some of the positive insights moving forward for Equinox, I feel that the worst is behind us, okay? I feel that some of the more complicated and disempowering narratives have really concluded. With this Pisces stellium, I also feel that there is a bridge. I feel that there is a bridge to your dream. There are more connecting points to opportunity. There is definitely an infrastructure around bringing visions to life, okay? Around manifesting, around making one's life better. That was a big thing that's come up over March, is like getting things better, being across a certain channel or ravine. Okay, so like that is the positive here. And the potential for this oncoming year cycle is also quite great. I will say that. I feel that there's just a huge host of potential that we're moving forward into this oncoming year cycle with. And don't waste it. Don't also get too unconscious. I think that that's one of the biggest warning signs about this year ahead as well. You know, we don't want to unconsciously spend all of our money up. We don't want to unconsciously take away our health by not being thoughtful about what we're eating. And we want to just be very okay with the safety of this time and with the excess of time that should be here with everyone. But anyway, you all, I do recommend that you go and listen to one of my favorite audios that I've done on Patreon, which is T-Chat 249. This year, I think it's one of the best T-Chats that we've gotten into in this year cycle. So I'm linking that below. Also, do hit the subscribe button for those of you who are new. I've got April Comprehensive Astrology that should be coming up, as well as a solar eclipse video. So that will all be available here on YouTube. Thank you all so much for being here, and have a wonderful equinox. Happy astrological new year. Much love. Bye.